Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Weekly Download. This is Mitchel Dumlao, and I hope you're having a great day and had a great weekend and just having great life so far. And your creative career and your video business is doing well. And I hope these have been really helpful. Every single week, I just think about things that I want to teach that I'm going through and I've been learning that have really helped me accelerate my video business as well as learn more to really build my career and my repertoire and my skill set. And so today's weekly download, we're going to talk about color grading, color correction, and the whole process. The reason why I wanted to talk about color today is because I'm going through the color process. And also as a videographer and a video creator, when I was going through the coloring process in Premiere and try to do it within Premiere, I didn't have the same look that some people had using DaVinci. And so one day I learned DaVinci at the YouTube Space LA. There was a free class. All my friends from YouTube were there. It was incredible. It was a 2-day course with one of the world's best colorists. And they went through the whole DaVinci Resolve suite and also talked about all the kind of like the basic best practices of color. And the thing is that a lot of people who do edit in Premiere or in Final Cut Pro, like yourself, you usually just color within Premiere or Final Cut. Although using DaVinci, you have so many more options, and it's also the industry standard software for coloring. So when you are exporting your video to a colorist, you should know how to do this whole workflow so that your offline editor or you are able to actually prepare the files for the online edit and for coloring. And so today we're going to go through the whole process of how to go from Premiere and Final Cut Pro and Avid to DaVinci and then back to your nonlinear editor. And so the first thing you want to do is, of course, save the project, and you're going to export a uncompressed video file. Now, I'm going to show you 3 ways of doing it. All right. So the first way is what I've been doing with my colorist, and I found him on Fiverr actually, and he has been phenomenal. Has colored for me for 2 years, and clients love the work. And it's someone that I really do lean upon when it comes to coloring and also making sure that my videos look dynamic. You know, sometimes I would be editing and I'm always worried about, oh, this is too warm or too cold. My colorist fixes everything. And so what I do is that I actually just take my project file, I duplicate it, I create a 4-color file. My sequence can be, I don't know, weekly download, final edit, 4-color. And then what I do is that you have to collapse all your clips into as little lines as possible. Really, it's just one line or one timeline or one track. And what you want to do is that you want to take out all of the effects that you have on the clips. You want to take out all of the transitions. You want to take out all the overlays. It's just stripped out, bare bones, just the clips. Now, this process can take a little time, but it's really important because you want to be able to have all the clips without any effects so that when they color it, you're not dealing with a blur effect or a zoom in transition or a 35 millimeter overlay on top. All right, take them all off. And the thing is that there are some effects that you do want to keep on. Depends on your workflow. Like for me, I keep on my warp stabilizer. And so if I have a warp stabilizer on there, depending on the shot, I would actually keep the warp stabilizer on there and I would just export the warp stabilized shot. But there are some, exceptions to the rule, depending on your timeline. And this also goes in for crops. So let's say you cropped in, or even if you did a small zoom in, right? I would actually take those out so that you have the colorist work with a raw file so that let's say you wanted to take out those zoom ins and those crops, then you can do that without having to go back to color. Now, the one thing that I don't, it's tough to say is our speed ramps, trying to get speed ramps, burned into the shot. So you can actually, it's up to you and how you would like to export it so that you have either as little work after you get color back, or you have more range. So what I like to do is sometimes burn in my speed ramps, export it with the speed ramps, and I export it with a warp stabilizer. Anyways, you also want to export with handles. That means is that you have an extra amount of frames at the tail or at the end or at the head at the beginning. This allows you to have cross dissolves or transitions, and so you're not stuck with a shorter shot. You know how it is with transitions or a cross dissolve. You have 12 extra frames if you have a 1 second transition between two shots. So you need to color those 12 extra frames as well. So when you do export and you have transitions, you all usually want to do 12 frames or 48 frames, or how many you think you need at the end of each shot in order for you to complete that transition. Or sometimes having those heads and tails is important for you after color, because sometimes you would need to extend or decrease the shots depending on the notes in the client, or if you need to, let's say, do a cut down, right? Let's say you need to do a cut down, or you need to do an extended cut of a clip. Whatever it is, it's always to export with these handles. And what you do, you put it all in one line, you take out all the audio, and you export it as an uncompressed ProRes regular, ProRes HQ, GoPro Cineform, 10-bit, UAV, whatever it is, the highest quality that you can. And then from there, send it out to color. Color's going to basically color that depending on just basically a whole long video file, and they'll send it back to you as, again, a long video file. And then when you have it in Premiere, you just put it on top of that 4-color sequence, and then you can use the razor tool and you can cut along, basically the first track, and you're cutting the finished color video file so that you have all the clips there. And then what you do is then you take your sequence that isn't 4-color, and then you plug that video, those clips back into that sequence, or you can create a new sequence or duplicate that final sequence. So then you take those clips that you made from your color, and then you can replace the clips in your final sequence. All right, so that's one way to do it. That's how I do it. Another way to do it, this is the old school way I used to do it, is that you actually export the uncompressed file, I guess the video file. Remember when you collapsed everything? And after you do that, you export an EDL, right? And what an EDL is, I believe it's an edit decision list or whatnot, but it's going to tell a editing program, the list of edits or the cuts. Now, when you are working with DaVinci, the way it works is that you can import the long uncompressed file that you exported from your timeline, and then you create a timeline, you create a sequence from an EDL. You can import the EDL, and what it will do is that it will take that long sequence or that long video file that you exported. It's going to cut it up into the individual clips. And then from there, your colorist or yourself can basically color each individual clip. When you just export it as a long video file, you or your colorist have to individually cut the clips at each one of the marks, right? Or each one of the cuts between each clip. So EDL for me was very helpful when I was doing DaVinci workflows. The third way to do it is using XMLs or AAF files. And so XML files, this is usually what you do when you're trying to send projects to another editor that's using Final Cut Pro and you're using Premiere. Usually when you're working with other editors, they're either working with Final Cut and you're working with Final Cut, and Premiere and you're working Premiere. But if you have to work between two different editors, sometimes you need to export an XML. And that XML then relinks to all the original clips and the sound files and all the assets that are linked to that project file. And usually, hopefully in a perfect world, it crosses over seamlessly. Usually doesn't happen that way. I always have problems with XMLs. So anyways, with XMLs, you can do the same thing with coloring. You can export an XML from your Premiere file, and then you can open that XML in DaVinci, and then it will reconnect to all your raw files. So you never need to export an uncompressed video file, right? It's just going to basically connect to your original clips and your audio, just like it's a regular Premiere file, but now it's in DaVinci. Same thing with AAF. The difference is that AAF has audio, XML, it's audio and video, or it's just video. You might have to look that up because I usually use XML, but I also know that for AAF, you could do the same. And for me, I prefer doing the first way and also the second way. XML files to me have always had problems syncing up because a lot of people either have just different types of systems and softwares, but people also like XMLs because you're working with the raw clips. You're not working with an uncompressed file made from a nonlinear editor that's linked to clips. It's like making a copy of a copy. This, with an XML file, you're working with the actual raw files. Although that also means your colorist needs to download or get all the raw files from you so that they can relink those files. It could be a huge, long process. All right. So it just depends on how you like to work in color. And that's really it. Those are the three ways that you can use DaVinci or Premiere or Final Cut or Avid, and also send it to a colorist or to DaVinci to color yourself. And I like the first way. Like I said, export is just one huge, long, uncompressed file, adding heads and tails, taking out all the effects, taking out all the audios. It was just one long clip. Send it to the colorist. Now they'll just cut it with a razor tool, and then they'll color it in DaVinci. Or you export that long uncompressed file, and then you export an EDL from that sequence. And then when they import that EDL into DaVinci, it'll then cut that file or that video in the places it needs to be cut, depending on the EDL you created from your Adobe Premiere or your Avid or your Final Cut file or program or project. And then you have the XML. And in the XML, you export the XML from Premiere or from Avid and Final Cut Pro, and you send that to your colorist, but they would need also the raw files, everything that's connected to that project, to actually relink everything, and then they can edit and also color the raw files. So hopefully this was helpful. A lot of people out there are using color grading and also just color correction in general to make some really cool videos and add some flair, add their voice, and make it just much more of a dynamic look if it's just a flat image or a profile, like a standard or a natural profile that you have in your camera. So again, this is the weekly download. My name is Mitchel Dumlao. Thanks again for watching. I post every single week. And if you like this, please like this video, share it, and comment on it. If you have any questions, email me at mitchell@videocontentschool.com or leave a comment below. And please share this with anyone you think would find this helpful. And please tell people about the weekly download. Either follow the Video Content School Facebook page or the my YouTube page, youtube.com/Mitchel Dumlao. Got a lot of great stuff on there as well. A lot of just video marketing and video production tips, as well as some shorts that I post every single day. So thank you so much for watching.